Check it out. Look what I have, friends. A Misti stamping tool. This is quite a surprise for me because I did not buy this myself. This was actually sent to me as a Christmas present from my crafty friend Amanda, who is the owner of Pear Blossom Press. So big thank you to Amanda. What's really funny is that this arrived before my video on craft essential supplies went live. So it's not as if Amanda saw that video and sent me one. It just is a huge coincidence because if you saw that video, then you know I have a different stamping platform, and I think I explicitly mentioned that I like mine just fine. And in fact, in the budget version of the Craft Room Essentials video, I actually showed that my stamp platform, the Stamp Easy from Basin Creative, it is actually the same price now as this. Back when I bought mine, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, it was only I think $15 or $18, and now not so much. So this is going to be my first look video of the Misti. I'm really excited to actually try it out. I've actually never really felt compelled to buy this for myself because my Stamp Easy works just fine. I really like it a lot. I've tried other systems or other types of stamp positioning tools, and I haven't liked them because, as I mentioned, I really like the door or hinge format for this type of tool. So far, everything else I've tried, I just haven't really felt that you can consistently stamp in the same spot multiple times over and do it kind of without too much thought and have it work just fine. So being that this is my first look video, I'm basically just going to use this for the first time, and I'll give you my unvarnished thoughts and opinions as I'm discovering this for myself for the first time. And then what I will do is use this as my primary stamping tool for a period of time, and then return with a follow-up video and give my concluding thoughts. So if I like it, kind of like the glassboard craft mat, you'll probably continue seeing me use it. And if I feel like my Stamp Easy is better, you'll probably see me go back to using that. Out of the gates, it's actually weird because the numbers are 0 to 8. So this is upside down for me if I use this orientation, which is what I'm used to, because it's just natural to open something like you would open a book, for example. But it appears we need to open it this way if you want to use the ruler and have it visible. This is, I feel that it's either, I think it's engraved into the plastic, so that's not gonna rub off. So if you look, this is mine, and same thing, it's engraved right into the plastic. It's not legible though. There is a ruler here, but it's not like painted in, so it's really hard to read. I actually never really use it. But in terms of size, this is, oh, you know, I kind of like that. I like that. See how the door, it just, look, it just stays. I really like that a lot because, oh, well, that's interesting. I like that a lot because with mine, if you kind of slip, it'll just come crashing down. And it is pretty thick plastic, so I don't think it would necessarily crack or shatter or anything like that. But now that I work on the glass mat, I'm always a little bit worried about accidentally slipping and having it fall onto my glass mat, especially let's say if I had a magnet here and it fell like onto a magnet or onto something else. I have worried sometimes about that. But so that's one thing I like. But what I was going to do is just compare footprint. So in terms of the footprint, it is roughly the same size. The Misti is a little bit bigger the way around, and maybe by half an inch or so. And I think in terms of actual stamping area, the thing with the Misti is that, yeah, you're really confined to just this size, essentially, because there's plastic. It's like there's a wall all the way around here. So this is kind of the limiting size for stamping. And so if you look at mine, I mean, since I can hang things off the edge, I don't really have a limit. So in terms of the width, it's about the same. And I can stamp all the way out to the edge on this one. That is somewhat possible. And like I said, you can hang stuff off the edges. So if I wanted to stamp onto like 8.5 by 11, I actually could if I wanted to on here. I cannot do that in the Misti. And the thing I was noticing just now is that on the side, because of that wall all the way around, it's actually kind of hard to, not hard, just harder to grab the door to open it. Now on this side, see how there's like a little bit of extra clear plastic? That's the door. So on this side, there's like a little bit of a lip, making it easier for you to open. But that means that it's just from this edge that makes it easy to open, because on the bottom edge, it's flush. So you don't have that lip here. I mean, you can still get your thumb under there. So it's possible. It's just a little bit harder. Whereas, oh, so this is the other thing that'll be interesting. Okay, so my Stamp Easy is on a, it's got a spring-loaded kind of feet. So see how there's actually a gap here. That makes it actually really easy to get your thumb under to open from under here. And then here on the side, it's flush all the way to here. There's that little bump out so that it's easy to open from here. This is, I think, very well constructed. This, I like that the door is staying open, that it's not loosey-goosey and it can't just flop. So I think that's really good, which I also think means that it's going to stamp very reliably in the same spot over and over again. And I do think, though, that, at least I'm wondering, I think it, I mean, this comes pretty close to the top. So I think once your door goes down, it's going to hit the paper. Whereas mine, because it's on the spring-loaded feet, once the door is closed, it's still hovering above your paper. It doesn't make the impression until you actually push it down, which I've actually come to maybe not rely on, but make use of, because sometimes I will have my stamp on the door, and then once I'm actually looking at it with my project, even though I picked the stamp up on top of my project, sometimes I still change it once I see everything inked up. And so before I actually make the impression, I actually do get a little bit of a preview. So so those are the things that I'm noticing out of the gates. Oh, let's check out, where's the magnet? Yeah, there's a magnet. And so I'm just having a hard time opening that way. Okay, so here's the magnet. Oh, it's strong. It is strong. Oh, and Now, here's the thing. Okay, so this is the nice cushion for us to stamp into. That does help to give you a better impression. Mine, it doesn't really have a cushion. It only has a cushion felted on the back, which doesn't give it a ton of give, but at least the whole platform can sink a little bit, where the cushion is closer to your panel, your card panel, whatever you're stamping onto. So this will probably, my expectation is, yield a better stamped impression because of that, because it's not the full thing that is, and see, this is felted on the back too. So you've got sort of double cushion. And so I think that's gonna probably be better for stamping. Now this, I don't know if we're supposed to leave the whole thing in. I guess we just tear one off at a time, right? So just tear one off. I don't know that I'll necessarily use the grid on here, because it's just loose. Okay, so, but that magnet is strong. I like that. And I like that it's got its little, its own little house here, which has a, it's got a ridge all the way around, so that you can actually, see, you can't push that off. There's a wall there keeping it. Why didn't they do one here? Oh, that's not even magnetic there. So there's no metal behind here. Oh, that's such a bummer, because so one of the things in the Stamp Easy that I will say is that it is, the magnets are weak. The magnets are weak. I mean, it comes with 2, and then I zoinked the 2 from my all-in-one tool. And so I generally have to use 4 to feel like I'm doing a good job of keeping it held down. So I'm just gonna add, because this is a strong magnet, I am just going to add some painter's tape so that I have a little bit of a handle to lift this up. And there's that. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to make a second little housing area there, so that you can store a second magnet. I'm guessing you can buy more magnets, because what if you had, like, this is probably, let me cut down some panels. This is probably enough. You could probably put 2, because it's 8.5 inches, so you can put 2 card bases and possibly stamp, 2 things at the same time, depending on your stamp. So let's say you were stamping, I guess, sentiment over here, and on this side you were stamping the image, and then you could like swap the positions on them. And if you make anything kind of en masse, tools like the stamp positioning tool are, yeah, so you can fit an 8.5 by 11 in there, are a great way to produce reliably and consistently the same design over and over again. And I'm sure anyone who's ever kind of produced en masse for like a craft show has come up with a lot of, I don't, so I don't really know all the tips and tricks, because I've just never needed to, but I'm sure there's like lots of efficiencies that you can have with that. And let's see, so there's that. I do see, I have an extra bar magnet. Let's see. This is pretty strong, because it'll work on the glass boards Studio mat. Oh, you do have to be careful not to like, not to let those clink together. Maybe that's the reason why they don't have to, because they don't really want to encourage people to have to, because they are strong magnets and they can crack if they come together aggressively. Okay, so I will not use mine because I don't want to. I don't want to change the thickness, because mine I think is a little bit thicker than that one, so I'll leave mine out of the mix. I did have a stamp out earlier, so I'm just gonna use this, and so this is like a really large stamp, and it's got a lot of fine lines, so I think this is going to be a good one to test with. And what I'm testing for is to see if it is easy to get precise, repeatable stamping without a lot of thought or effort. So let's see. I kind of want to run this. Oh, well, I think I'm learning why this is this way, because I feel compelled to put this in the bottom right corner, and you can really only hang this off the bottom right corner if your stamp positioning tool opens this way. Because of that, I guess I will use it in this orientation. And I'm going to use my favorite ink, VersaFine Onyx Black, which is a really good ink. Usually stamps very, very reliably. So I'm just going to hang this off the corner there, and then I think I'm going to make some... Do I need birthday cards? Maybe I'll make some birthday cards. So, happy birthday. So, we'll make really easy cards. Sending birthday wishes your way for, yeah, that's a nice one. This is a good one. They're all good. Let's see. So, let me get the magnet on here. Oh, maybe I'll do this in 2 passes. Let me think. Let's do this. Oh, I can't. So I'll do this. And then maybe I'll kind of do what I was saying. Maybe I'll position this sentiment over here. So the grid paper is kind of helpful because I'm using it to line this up. And I'm guessing that's gonna work out. So here's my thought. Everybody watching me use this for the first time, don't laugh. This is it's a little bit different to mine. Okay, so it's different to what I'm used to. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up everything. I might need to move that later, but my thought is I'm gonna ink it up on the flower and then shift it over here and then ink up the sentiment portion. So let's see. All right, so first test is let's try to get it right. So I'm not gonna do, this is not to test how easy it is to, or how reliable and easy it is to stamp in the same spot. This is just to see how well it stamps. So, because ideally, I would still want to use this for a large stamp like this because, not that I'm hoping it goes wrong, but just that it's large and easier to ink up this way. I got a little bit of ink there, but that's fine. That's just going to hit the paper. And so I do want to try to have this ink up nicely on the first go. So let's see. Oh, pretty good. Look at that. Nice, clear, sharp, pretty consistent all the way. Nice. Okay. So next what I'll do is shift down here. And so if you were mass producing, oh, I actually did not a bad, oh, that's so, maybe I need to find a shorter happy birthday sentiment. I don't think any of these are that short though, is the problem. This would have been better if I pushed the floral stamp a little bit off to the side. Oh, maybe I'll just do it this way. Oh, and then that means I could use my first one. So let's do that. Because the florals I think will work in either direction. I'm just gonna clean this real quick because I do want to place it onto my card panel. I mean, I'm just doing this as a first look to test it, but I'm gonna use this card. So I'm not just testing it for the sake of testing it. Let's actually make something that I'll use. Okay, so that's upside down. Okay, so we'll do, oh yeah, see that fits nicely there. And then this did not get any ink on it, but I'll still wipe it anyways, just in case. And there we go. Oh no, that's gonna touch. I'm glad I caught that. So yeah, if you were gonna do this, then you would need to be careful of that. So what a bummer. Okay, so let's just, I'm only doing this so that I don't remove that because I want to test a little bit more. Okay. That's just so that this stamp doesn't ink this panel. Okay, so now I'll pick that up. And oh, I got it decently straight. I'm gonna actually straighten it a little bit on using the grid lines on here. It's a little bit hard to see them. Let's see. Okay, so this needs to come down a little. I think this needs to come down a little also. Okay, I think that is better. Okay, that'll have to be good enough. And so again, I'm just gonna test because this font is a little bit bold. So let's see how this does with not just fine lines, but bolder lines as well. And again, I'm trying to actually get a good stamped impression, and then I'll do a test to see how well we can stamp multiple times. Pretty good. Nice. So if you were mass producing, you could just go back and forth. I mean, if you had a smaller stamp, it would be less hassle. You wouldn't have to mask off like this. But here is how that turned out. So the bold lettering, really great, and the finer print, pretty good too. Which isn't too surprising because this was such fine lines here. All right, so now let's do a little bit of a test to see how this does with stamping multiple times. So we have that there. So I'm gonna ink up the flower, and here I'm just gonna be kind of spotty with it. So I'm gonna leave spots that I know are not inked up. And my expectation, so you can see there's some spots that are not complete. So my expectation is that I should be able to, let's just ink everything up, not really have to think too hard. And because that's kind of how I use mine. I don't really have to think very hard about getting it in the same spot. I can just close the door, push down, and it works. And sure enough, that's pretty darn perfect. And with a stamp that has such fine line detail, if it was off, you would be able to tell pretty easily, which is why I thought this was a good one to use. So now I'm gonna leave this here, but I can always kind of come back and do the same thing here, where I ink up the sentiment, and I'll just ink it up not great. So you can kind of see that's not very perfect. So if we want to do a better job at that, then we can ink this up again. And voila, pretty good. I think I have something hanging off there. There might have been some fuzzies on the stamp, but otherwise, really, really good. Yeah, this is cool. I'm liking it. So then my next question, because as I was sort of unboxing it, oh, I got smudgies. Okay, let's do that. And so my next question is this. When this goes down, I think it's gonna hit the paper right away. There's no real, whether you've pushed down or not. I think as soon as it's closed, it's gonna make contact. So let's see if that's the case. So I'm just going to ink this up as fulsome as I can. And then, so let's say I was like, oh no, actually I want to nudge it. Oh yeah, see, it touched. See, and that's the sort of thing that in mine, and maybe I'll do mine too, just so we can compare. But with mine, I can still open the door and move my card panel if I really wanted. And I'm always kind of second guessing myself, so I like being able, but that stamped really nicely. You know, all these years, I always say that I'm not a great stamper. I gotta say, you know, if you're not a great stamper, having a tool like this is really great. Let's see, but I have to admit, this stamp I'm using, I've used it. That's why it was out. So, and once you've kind of primed your stamp a little bit, it does tend to start stamping better. Okay, so that's pretty cool how that worked. I'm gonna do a set of solid stamps. I did grab that for this first look video, and so I have another stamp set that I can actually use. And And you might ask, why didn't I just position the sentiment with this at the same time? There's only really one reason for why I didn't do that. And well, there's two. First, I just wanted to demonstrate that you could like kind of do multi-step mass production. But actually what I have found is that sometimes when I use like a main image and then a sentiment, it's not as big of a deal when you're using stamps from the same brand, but sometimes if you are using like stamps that are not from the same brand, they can be different thicknesses. So sometimes one stamp will be thicker than the other, and so it's gonna hit your paper first and actually prevent the thinner stamp from actually touching your paper. And so if I'm using stamps from like different sets, even within the same brand, I think it's just like how things get produced, right? There's going to be minor like differences. Now here, like I really do have to use all 4 magnets to get like a good oh, this left some ink smudgies. So let's start fresh. And I'm gonna get this out of the way. Okay, so now the nice thing I will say about the Misti is because it's got the raised, like the wall, you know when you're very, very much in the same corner as a registration. So for me, like here, the only raised part is down here, and I can actually hang this off the edge. It's one of the reasons why I have some tape down here. It's because that creates a little bit of a lip. And so I can actually use that as my registration for placing this. And that way, if I took my panel out and I needed to bring it back in to overstamp, for example, I have a good registration here. But the other reason why I put the blue tape, and I just freshened this up, I put some new blue tape down recently. But I also like to position this a little bit further away from the hinge because it just makes it easier to place stamps so that I can have something hang off the edge on this side as well as on this side. So I know sometimes I get questions about that because I never explain why I put blue tape on my stamp positioning tool. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to do it twice. So I'm going to do the same thing twice. I'm going to ink this up to really try to get a good stamped impression on the first go. And I did clean this from using it just now. So this is almost like a fresh inking of this. So just want to make sure I really get that inked up well. And then I will, ooh, got some ink on myself. Okay, so then let's close this down. So now this is closed, but it hasn't actually touched my paper, which is a feature I like. Okay, so using the same pressure tool that I used on the Misti. Look at that. That's pretty darn good. Now in the center here, it missed a little bit. So let's see, is there ink there? There's ink there, so I think I just didn't push down. But but part of that could be that, you know, I'm not stamping into foam right underneath, and so but yeah, that's kind of nice. I think my towel it leaves some fuzzies because I can kind of see some lines. Okay, so now let's do the second test. And Maybe I'll get some sentiments on this as well. It'll be nice to have some birthday cards ready to go. Okay, so then test number 2 is going to be, I'm not going to take the panel out, but I will stamp, let's just say I stamp it like this. Oh, that was barely anything. Okay. Let's not do a great job of inking, and then we'll stamp. Okay. So you can see very, very imperfect and incomplete. So now let's ink it up a little bit more carefully and get a second impression. And then again, I'm not gonna be like precious about how I close this. And I've never found like that I've needed to. And we'll see whether, let's see, so I know we have, that's pretty good. So here's the 2 that were from the Misti because they have sentiments. And here's this. Pretty good. I don't think that moved at all. Let's see, so this is the Misti. And it's kind of got the same thing going on with regards to, if you look at the center, more like in the center of the design, like this area, these lines tend to be a little bit thinner than these exterior lines out here. And that's sort of the same here as well. If you look at these lines, they're a little bit thicker than the lines in here. And so part of that is that I think it's easier to get firmer pressure when you're out on the edges as opposed to on the interior. But overall, this is a more even stamped impression from the Misti, to be honest. This looks good. Maybe in the center here, it's still a little bit light because I still see the ink. Still see the ink that's on here. It's just not making good contact. And now it's probably dry. So let me go in a third time. I'm just gonna ink up this area of the flower where it's a little bit light. And just try to get pressure right there. Okay, so that's looking better. And you can kind of see I went in on for a third stamping, and it's all the lines are crisp. If that was a little bit off, you would know it right away. So that's why I've just always been perfectly happy with my Stamp Easy. Like it works just fine. I haven't really felt like, oh, I really need to spend the money on a Misti because this works really well for me. I really like it a lot. Now, like I said at the beginning, when I bought it, it was the less expensive alternative to the Misti, but these days it's selling for the same price. So then I would have to kind of consider, if I were new to the crafting game nowadays, I'd rather just get the Misti. If I didn't know anything else, I would probably just get the Misti because that's what everybody uses. But now that I actually have the Misti, I'm gonna use it and really be able to give you a more thoughtful comparison between the two, because there's already some things that I'm liking more about my Stamp Easy. But really, I think you get used to the thing that you used first, right? So it could just be that this is what I had, and so this is what I got used to. And then so I found advantages to this being designed in the way that it's been designed, but I do think it's a pretty big advantage that you can stamp a larger size piece of paper if you need it, because there's not like a lip all the way around like there is on the Misti. So that was an interesting comparison. So I'll put mine away now. And then what I wanted to do was, let's see how it performs with solid stamps, because a lot of times solid stamps are the thing that can be, I'll come back and do sentiments on the other one. So let's see. I've got this stamp set, which is a layering one. And let's see, I've got, okay, can I tell you all, I got this kind of out of the blue, totally not expecting it. So big thank you again to Amanda. But I also just purchased, I just purchased the Craft Stash one, because when I was doing my craft room essentials recommendation video, and I was looking for alternatives to stamping platforms that are a little bit more budget friendly, and I came across one from Craft Stash that it kind of looks like there's multiple different brands offering the same style of stamping platform, and the Craft Stash one was only $9, and I'm a VIP, so I get 10% off on top of that. So, and then they just have their Boxing Day sale, so I found some other stuff on sale that I wouldn't mind having. And so I went ahead and I ordered it. So now I've gone from having one tool that I'm perfectly happy with, and a stamping platform that I'm perfectly happy with, and then now I am going to have another one coming. Let's see. So I'm just going to rotate this. So here's another way you can get some efficiencies with your multiple stamps. So you can kind of just like find ways to rotate, move it around. And I don't know if I have that exactly in the right spot, but I don't. So there's like 5 layers to this, and I don't have 5 shades of pink. But what I'm going to do, just so that we can see, is I'm going to ink this up not so well. Oh, actually, I'm going to ink it up well. Let's try to ink it up well. It's the same color as that. And then I'm going to ink it up again. And let's just see if... I should have done this with the first one. To see if it gets... Although the first one inked up pretty well. So that's a way to get a darker image, but that was all the same color. So I got 2 layers out of that. And then let me just shift it down here and get layer number 3 on here. So if you were gonna do like multiples, you can just set up each of your little stations and then keep rotating it around. Okay, so I think that's, again, might not be perfect, but and then I'll take my second shade of pink. And ooh, nice. Just gonna do that the one time. Although I don't think I inked up everything. There's a little, oh, that's why. Magnet was in the way. Okay, that's better. And then we'll do one more turn. I think I can get the fourth one pretty easily. Yeah. Get that in that corner. And there might be some ink left on this. I'll just give that a quick wipe. Okay, so this goes here. And pick that up. And I do have a third, so I'll use this. Oh, look at that. That's nice. That's pretty good with the solid stamping. So let's see. This is there. Okay, so let's try. I should have done this first. So let me try to do an imperfect stamping of the first color. That means this first color is going to end up being a little darker. So I'm going to end up having to stamp it twice. Okay, so there. Not super perfect, not very solid. I mean, I know that it can be pretty precise because we saw that with the first really thin lined stamp. But let's see how well it does with solid stamps. It's pretty good. And just need to do a little rotating. And just in case, I'll just wipe that. And since I went 2 impressions with my lightest color, maybe I'll just do 1 of my mid. Last time we did 1 of the light and 2 of the mid. So, or actually I think we did 1 light and then we used the light 2 times on top of that. So look at that, nice. And then we'll bring it down here. No, like that. This has to go down here. And this will be, let's see if I can do my mid for a second one before I get to my dark. So this is kind of one way, if you don't have a lot of different shades of the same color, just use the same color multiple times. So that's 1. And that will be the second time with the same color, and I'm gonna go a 3rd time. So some areas on this flower has this color stamped once, and at the moment twice, and then that's gonna get a 3rd. So you can see how it got darker. And as it dries, it's gonna dry back a little bit lighter, but kind of stretching so that across these 4 stamps and only 3 different pink inks, I'm still gonna get some good color variation. And I'll leave that there. And this will be the darkest, which I might have to do twice because this flower overall is gonna be darker than our first one. No, I think that's good. So since I was cleaning as I went, may as well just wipe that clean. So pretty good, look at that. It inks up solid stamps pretty nicely. But you can see the difference between the two. So here, the lightest color, I inked this once. Stamp number 2, I did 2 more of the lightest. And then stamp 3 and stamp 4. that was this. Then on this flower, what I did was 2 times that, because we did the imperfect stamping. We did 1 layer of this. Stamp number 3 was 2 additional layers of this, and stamp number 4 is that. So you can kind of see, you can get a bit of a range, and it's the same 3 inks. So, but yeah, I really like this. It worked really well. So, initial thoughts. I think that for me, it feels more natural to open this like a book. And so I don't think I'll be using the lines all that much anyways, but if I were compelled to, I would have wanted the lines to be legible in that orientation. But my suspicion is that there's probably a good reason why it was designed the other way, and I'm sure somebody's gonna leave me a comment letting me know why that is. Because again, I've never had one of these, so I've never felt compelled to actually get one, so I've never really done any research with regards to what makes it so great. Because I've always just really liked what I have, and so I've just used what I have. And so let me just, as I'm giving my initial thoughts. So I think it does stamp really well. It does a really good job at hitting the same mark without you as a user having to be like super cognizant and precious about how you are using the tool. You can really just not think about it and just stamp, and it'll hit the mark every time. So I really like that. But my stamp easy is the same. Like it works just as well in terms of precisely stamping in the same spot every time without having to really think too much. I don't like using your tools shouldn't be work, is how I like to think of my tools. So I don't want to work at it to get it to actually do what it's supposed to do. I want to just do what I'm doing now. Just, if you're doing everything right, then it should just work without having to really be super mindful about exactly how you're pushing down and if you're coming at the right angle and all of that. I mean, all of that just worked fine. Didn't really have to think about it, and I can easily do it while I'm talking because I'm not having to put that much thought into what I'm doing. So I do think that it's in terms of being able to repeat stamp, really good. Big thumbs up there. That first stamp impression is also really good, which is, I think, more important, because if you can stamp really well the first time, then you won't even need to stamp a second time, and that's going to save you in most cases, right? There are techniques where you might want to, but in most cases, it's that'll just save time to be able to get it right the first time and not have to rely on multiple stampings to get a full and complete impression. So I think it's really good for that. I think that it is a little bit of a lost opportunity to not be able to have a second magnet, but maybe they prefer that you don't have 2 magnets so that they don't accidentally collide and potentially snap. But I feel like that space could have been used for another housing for your magnet. Although I would feel, if you have to keep this loose piece of paper in here, I would feel compelled to just leave this on here. I think that it's going to be an easy adjustment not to lift this from the bottom, but I do like, just in terms of ergonomically, my Stamp Easy is a little bit easier to just open and close, because basically from any of the non-hinged sides of the door, you can open it up really easily. one thing I really love is that the door just stays open, and it, like, if you accidentally, slip or whatever, it's not going to come crashing down onto your project, which is good, really good in the case of the Misti, because as soon as it comes down, it's going to make contact. So if you weren't quite ready for it to make contact just yet, this is really important. So I can see why they designed it this way. And it's just nice that it's not going to just crash down in either direction. So I really, really like that aspect. That, I would say, is like a +1 over my Stamp Easy. And otherwise, I think that I'm going to probably really like it. It's just getting used to the couple of different things. I mean, I'll be honest, I noticed, having this have like that retaining wall on all three sides, it's a little bit of a limiting factor in terms of the size paper that you can stamp on. But for the most part, I haven't needed to do that all that often on my Stamp Easies. So as a downside, or just a comparison point between this and the Stamp Easy, I don't know that is a huge negative. But yeah, I'm actually I guess once these are, there's a healthy number of them that we were given, so I guess it'll be a while before I actually have to. I don't think I would buy more once this was out. I actually think maybe I would just use copy paper. I might not use this all the time. The grids are nice though, so that you can line up your stamp directly on here and pick it up. Because I found looking at it here was easier than looking at it through the grid lines on the door. It was actually not that easy to line this up on the door. I found with my Stamp Easy, the lines are darker on the door, so it's really easy to line up. But but here on the Misti, it's like a lighter gray, so it's a little bit tougher. And I do like that the magnet's nice and strong. It really does hold down your paper. Whereas, the test, I'll have to do this as I use it more. The test is going to be stamping StazOn onto acetate, because StazOn is so sticky. Every time I've done that on here, it's always lifted the acetate because my magnets weren't strong enough to hold it down. So that is going to be a test that I want to for sure do at some point as I'm reviewing this. But that's my first look. So thanks for catching this one. Thank you, Amanda, for gifting me this stamping platform. And if you are interested in stamping platforms at some point, I just put the order in today with Craft Stash, so I'm gonna have the that $9 one that I showed in my budget video of Craft Room Essentials. I have that on its way to me, so I'm gonna do a first look video on that. But since it's coming from the UK, I think it'll be like a good 2 or 3 weeks before it gets to me, so I'm gonna have plenty of time to be using and testing this during that time. And so once that arrives, I'll probably do a first look and then switch over to that one for a period of time and evaluate that. But I will come back with another video once I've had a chance to use this more, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on it. That should be a little bit better informed after I've had some real experience of using this day to day. Thanks for catching this video, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.